Monarch butterflies in migration don't like to fly over large expanses of water, and who can blame them? There are so many of them traveling together, and there's no assurance that an island will appear when your wings are tired. Have you ever been in an airplane flying over the ocean? I don't know how you feel about it. You might love that feeling of being in flight over the water, but for me, it really creates an existential crisis. I feel my body tensing, somehow irrationally feeling that my willing it will help the enormous machine stay airborne over the sea. So I find myself leaning forward like this in my seat, like, come on. And then you just look out the window and it's just blue and blue and blue. And if I could just see one landmass, it would be so comforting. I would be like, okay, we could land on that if we had to. It's not at all rational, but it's really human. I think for most of us, unless maybe you're an astronaut, most of us feel more secure when we can see some ground or know that it will materialize soon because, we're earthlings. We want to be grounded. Out over vast water, it's so easy to lose your bearings, to kind of feel like a plaything in the hands of nature or the gods or fate. For me, it's like I could just disappear into that immensity, that enormity of all that blue. Psalm 107 says, "They that go down to the sea in ships, that do business in great waters, these see the works of the Lord and his wonders in the deep." I've always been fascinated with seafarers. How do they have the psychological strength to survive all those months out over the big, deep blue with nothing solid under their feet day after day? And this goes double for the ones down in the submarines. I think we have somewhat a naval, yes, we do, Navy and admirals and sea ship captains over here. Not a tree to look at, no fresh fruits or vegetables to eat, just sea and salt and rocking up and down over endless waves. The works of the Lord, when you're that far from shore, are just as terrifying as they are beautiful. I'm sure that the sight of a 40-foot wave cresting over the bow of a ship in a storm is a wonder to behold, but it can also kill you. The wonders of the deep are not for the faint of heart or body. And I just said bow of the ship, I realized that. Everybody's like, it's the bow of the ship. You don't get out much over the water, do you? I do sometimes. I know that they who do their business in great waters did that and still do for economic reasons. Whaling, for instance, was a very lucrative trade and worth the risk if you made it home alive. What a life, though. These guys went out in crews, and it was a very, very hard existence. Very hard before you got the whale, and after you got that whale, and what you had to do to it, disgusting. Really, really dangerous. They had many rituals and superstitions on whaling boats and traditions that helped order their lives, though, and keep them sane and safe. The captain, of course, was the utmost authority, and there was a strict hierarchy. There still is on every ship. You do not challenge this hierarchy if you want to stay in one piece. There was too much danger out there, not just the danger of getting lost at sea or starving to death, becoming shipwrecked, going overboard and drowning, or being stove by a whale, which is what happened in Moby Dick, and also has happened many times to actual ships. In fact, Moby Dick is based on a true story of a whale who did attack a ship and just smashed right into it. There was also the danger on ships of the men, the crew forming factions, grumbling, turning into mutiny, or individuals losing their minds with monotony or deprivation. You may not think that Moby Dick is the greatest American novel, but it certainly gave us one of the greatest characters in American literature in Captain Ahab, a guy who never actually literally lost his bearings at sea, but who definitely lost his bearings at sea, in the interior sense, in his mind and in his soul, and in the end, that was worse. He's the guy I think about when I see people in the throes of obsession, or I myself get caught up in a big mission, or watch others get lost in their own, even good and worthy missions. You better support those people, those Ahabs, and keep your objections, concerns, or own ideas to yourself, or else you may be asked to walk the plank. Ahab is obsessed with the great white sperm whale Moby Dick. Moby is the whale who bit off his leg, who unmanned him, so he says. So he's going to go back and get him. So Ahab brings another crew out to sea in the Pequod to have another chance at revenge. What the crew doesn't know when they sign on to go out there with him is that Ahab isn't just leading them on a whaling expedition for any whale. He's out there to get one specific whale, and nothing else will do. In the end, Ahab's mad obsession winds up getting him killed and almost all his crew with him. The whale, representing nature's fierce power, or maybe representing the dangers of the ego, has the last word. You should definitely still read it, even though I just gave away the end. Ahab is what happens when we develop skill and expertise in life without also taking our spiritual lives and development seriously. We can be good at everything and still a grave danger to ourselves and those in our care if we alone hold the vision for everything that is supposed to be happening. Whether it is as parents or spouses or at work or on a volunteer team. Our expertise, our skill, our level of experience, and even our level of previous success really doesn't mean anything if we're not also always entraining ourselves and practicing considering the needs, perspectives, and experience of our crew. I may need to kill that whale, but maybe what my crew needs is to make some money and get home safely. Seafarers use sextants and compasses and lead lines and the stars and maps and tradition and lore to navigate over the great oceans. But there are no maps to navigate the depths of the soul. We must drop down into it on a regular basis and simply get to know it without fear. If we do not, we can never bring forth its treasures and its wisdom for this lifetime. So religion can be one kind of a map, one kind of a navigational tool. And in this religious tradition, we don't chart a direct course from here where you are today, whatever kind of mess you are in or whatever kind of wholeness you're in. We don't chart a direct course from here to salvation and heaven. That's not the way we do it. We have multiple sources of religious authority. You can find our 6 sources in your hymnal, actually, right in the beginning there. One of our sources is the direct experience of each individual with the mystery, with what we call God. One of our sources is our heritage in the Protestant tradition, in the Bible, the Jewish and the Christian scriptures. One of our sources is humanism, the wisdom of prophetic people in our own life and times and those gone by. One of our sources, our navigational tools, is the insights of science. And one is the wisdom of earth-centered indigenous religion. Another of our navigational tools for the soul is the wisdom we find in exploration of world religions. And then we also have as a guide, a map, our 7 principles, which you will also find in your order of service and on the UUA website. And we've got little cards with them out in the foyer. You should know them. They are great guides. But you should also know in this church, on an institutional level, we stay on course by documents that don't sound very exciting, but they are our bylaws and our policies, that these documents address our lives as an organization. And the people who are our captains in that endeavor are your board of trustees. So our president is Claire, our vice president is Lissa, and Mike, and Steve, and Scott, and Debbie, and Dawn, and Rebecca, and Cliff. Aye, aye, captains. Will you please just let us see you for a moment? Yeah. You know, it's important. These are the people who help us navigate, help this institution navigate through the waters. They write policies that help us to be even clearer about what we're doing. And I know this doesn't sound spiritual, but it is, because here's why. Life is really deep. Life and God make profound demands on us. This church exists to allow all those who feel similarly called to live lives in community, lives of service, lives of soulfulness, to live out that calling together as best we can, generation unto generation. Here, in this institution, we very intentionally keep before us the fact, the awareness that our voyage is brief, and we all eventually disappear from view over the horizon. So what the board work is about, what that institutional captain's work is about, is making sure that we have logistics and best practices and expectations clearly outlined, so that we're not always spending our time trying to figure those things out anew every year, so we can focus on the deep stuff, on the life and death issues that churches are really about, like how do we best put our love into action? How do we live as deeply and profoundly as it all deserves? No one knows how those monarch butterflies find their way over the deep, intimidating, beautiful expanses of water either. As it is for humans, monarch butterflies have some combination of innate knowledge, guidance from the sun, help from air currents, and perhaps in some way we do not yet understand, relationships and a group desire to get there. And so we too fly on over the deep. We sail across the wide expanse, the beckoning quest to which we give our lives in answer.